Most people are unwilling to change because of fear. And I want to talk about that for a second because I'm of the mindset of like, hey, whatever you believe, it's everything's a product of your belief system. Now, and you're the greatest testimony for that because whoever thought you'd be exactly where you're at right now, which we're going to get to in a little bit, having, the 16-year-old that was crying saying, hey, I'm overweight, life sucks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here you are living the life that anyone and everyone would imagine to live. Can you talk about this unwilling to change because of fear? Because I think that is one of the biggest crippling things for people going to any next level, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly speak to it more intelligently now than I could when I was 16. But essentially, fear is just imagination. That's all it is. Your mind imagines some future event that could go wrong, or imagine some future negative thought pattern that goes on there. So there's no different. Fear itself is just you listening to that little voice, which everyone has. Nobody's immune to that voice. It's in your head and it's talking about what could go wrong. And what you do is you kind of Velcro yourself to that thought, and that fear then extrapolates on itself. It keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper, and it just pulls you down this rabbit hole to a point where you have paralyzation of what could happen to me, why is life folding this way? It can just grip you onto this. The way I also like to think of this is, if you have kids, I have 3 under 9. And so when I walk into my son's room, he's like, wow, I want you to come. I feel like there's a monster in my room. So we walk in there, I'm like, I open the closet door and we're like, look, there's no monster in here. And the kid's going, no, but I feel like there's one under the bed. So you look under the bed, you kind of go in this thing. They have this imagination that there's monsters. And as adults, we laugh at that and go, of course there's no monsters. Yet at the same time we laugh at that, we have our own monster, which is allowing fear to grip us. And so people that have worked themselves through that, it's no difference. You were still acting as that child. We've just manifested that fear differently. It's the fear of what's going to happen to me. Where could this end up? What if I fail? What if I do all these things? And you know what the reality is we've all had fear at some points in our lives. Well, let me back up. There's primal fear, and then there's psychological fear. The fear that we're talking about is psychological. The primal fear is like, oh shit, I'm being chased by a lion, I better run. But here's what I always tell everybody that. If you're actually in primal fear, I promise you're not going to stop and think about what's going to go wrong. If you're actually in a primal fear situation, you're just acting. In fact, you're probably closer to being in that point than you ever have been because you're actually out of your mind, not listening to your mind and just acting upon what you need to do. So the psychological fear is just imagination. And it's just, we extrapolate the imagination, it pulls us down there. So one of the things, the technique you can do, at least when you start to hear that voice and you start to become Velcro to it, you can just do a quick little 3, 2, 1, relax. You count down and you just drop your shoulders and you breathe out, because we all know that we've had fear, and 99.99% of the time, what we think or imagine what's going to happen never does, never, ever does. Now, and there may be some things that we've got to change. It doesn't mean you can't work on fixing the situation. But the minute we're going to allow ourselves to listen to that voice around fear, it's going to paralyze you from living the authentic or truth of what is in front of you and what you actually need to do.